There is controversy around what form of folate should be in prenatal vitamins, folic acid or methyl folate. Despite the American Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists continuing to recommend folic acid supplementation in pregnancy, some think we should be using the other form of folate. Folate, also known as vitamin B9, is essential for cell growth and DNA synthesis. Folic acid is a highly stable synthetic form of folate that is easily absorbed by your body. It is critical before and during early pregnancy because it helps prevent serious malformations of the brain and spine known as neural tube defects. For individuals at low risk of a neural tube defect, supplementation with 400 micrograms of folic acid reduces the risk of these malformations by up to 70%. In recent years, more and more supplement companies have decided to stop including folic acid in their prenatal vitamins, replacing it with 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, which I will henceforth refer to as methyl folate, as this methyl folate is the biologically active form of folate. Folic acid is absorbed by your body and subsequently converted into methyl folate. And while it seems to make sense, just take the biologically active form, the methyl folate, and then your body doesn't have to convert it. I'm going to share some important reasons why we still recommend taking folic acid, even if you have an MTHFR gene variant. Folic acid has large randomized controlled trials that support its effectiveness in reducing the risk of neural tube defects. Methyl folate does not have data from randomized controlled trials supporting its effectiveness. Now, some believe that methyl folate doesn't need data from randomized controlled trials. I disagree, and here's why. There was a landmark study that described the relationship between maternal blood folate levels and the risk of neural tube defects. As the blood folate levels increased, the risk of a neural tube defect decreased. And this study established the optimal blood folate levels for neural tube defect prevention. There is data that both folic acid supplementation and supplementation with methyl folate can achieve the blood folate levels that were established as optimal for neural tube defect prevention. So, while we know increasing blood folate levels to an optimal level is one of the ways in which folic acid reduces the risk of neural tube defects, we do not know if that is the only way in which folic acid reduces the risk. Given how complex the folate cycle is and the many different processes it is involved in, it is possible that there are additional ways in which folic acid specifically leads to a reduction in the risk of neural tube defects. We cannot say with certainty that just because methyl folate achieves the same blood folate levels as folic acid, that it is equivalent to folic acid. We know folate is necessary for DNA and RNA synthesis and proper cell division. All of the organ systems in our body require folate to form. So why is folic acid supplementation so crucial specifically for the formation of the neural tube? The truth is, while we have theories, we don't actually know how folic acid leads to a reduction in neural tube defects. We know that folic acid works, but until we understand exactly how, I don't think other forms of folate should be recommended for those who are pregnant or trying to conceive, even if you have an MTHFR gene variant. The MTHFR gene provides instructions for your body to build an enzyme that helps convert folate into its biologically active form, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. Now, if you have an MTHFR gene variant, you may have been told that you can't process folic acid, but that's not the case. There are different variants of the gene for the MTHFR enzyme. Over 40% of the population has a variant of the gene that just doesn't work quite as well. These gene variants are common. While having an MTHFR gene variant may decrease the activity of the enzyme, studies show that supplementation with folic acid at the recommended dosage eliminates the differences in folate status between the different versions of the MTHFR enzyme. A large trial in China, where MTHFR variants are common, found folic acid supplementation reduced neural tube defect rates equally well, regardless of MTHFR status. Now, if those aren't reasons enough, I have one more for you. Folic acid is more stable and less vulnerable to oxygen and temperature changes than methyl folate. And while supplement companies have gotten much better at stabilizing methylfolate, it just simply cannot compare to the decades of use and proven stability of folic acid. Folic acid also happens to be far less expensive. This is why the American Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and I recommend 400 micrograms daily while trying to conceive and during pregnancy. For those at elevated risk, because either they themselves have a neural tube defect, or they have a partner who has a neural tube defect, or a baby with a neural tube defect previously, an increased dose of 4,000 micrograms daily is recommended. All right, I hope you found this explanation helpful.